So we can get excited also about the circulatory system. We know how the blood vessels carry blood away from and actually towards the heart. There's the in and the out, and it's this perfect system of studying circulation. But without the human skeleton, we wouldn't have anything to hold this fascination. So this is our frame. The skeleton is our scaffolding, our foundation, it's our anchor, our base, and it's our strength and support system. So we honor every part of our body, the physical, mental, emotional, and the spiritual. So Leonardo da Vinci did what's called a mid-sagittal section. So sagittal is when you cut right down through the body to show the bilateral left and right. And when he cut through the skull, he was actually studying cadavers. You can see that the skull fitted into a perfect square. That's when we go down. The coronals go in the other way, the coronal or front plane. And we also have transverse. So really we actually fit inside of a cube. Yeah, so this is the fascination of the human body. It just does amazing things. Like we all walk, but we take it for granted how we can run and do acrobatics. So it just gets deeper and deeper. So as we explore the field around the human body, if you were to stretch your arms right out, you realize that the human body, the span from fingertip to fingertip, is the same as your height. So if I turned around, I actually form a cube. And that's why when we dance and do yoga and stretch and movements, we're actually cleansing and blessing the field that is around us. Some people like to call it free-form dance and movement, but this allows us to go beyond the confines of the cubic canon. And I found some photos from 1925 where they're studying what they call yantra yoga, where they fitted the body into these shapes of the platonic solids, which is all golden ratio, by the way. They're showing that the cube is the key to unlocking the mystery of the golden ratio, but we contain that within our human form. I used to study yantra yoga. I was always fascinated by holding these geometrical forms. So when we look at the human body, the whole body, we know when you're seated, it fits in, the iconic Buddha diagram fits in what's called a golden rectangle. So this is the golden rectangle, which is the shape, that part of your hand here is a golden rectangle. If that's 1, that distance is 1.618. So even Buddha's head had to be drawn in the golden rectangle as well. So Tibetan monks were only permitted to draw the Buddha within the geometry of the golden rectangle. Otherwise it was considered bad energy. And here we see the 3 nesting phi ratio rectangles. So what I noticed too is that when we sit in meditation, we actually form a tetrahedron. So you can see here, this is a pure tetrahedron. We are the 5 platonic solids. So this is the tetrahedron. You can sit inside dodecahedrons. You can create all your own beautiful shapes that you resonate to. But the essence of meditation is that it stills the heart, stills the body. A lot of people love to walk barefoot on the ground because this connects you to all the frequencies, the magnetic energies in the earth. So walking barefoot, there's whole books on that. So the measurements of the Vitruvian Man show that we are in the golden rectangle. So if this is 1, this is 1.272. We fit inside the circle and square. That's called the mystical squaring of the circle. So our body connects to even the mathematics of the Cheops pyramid. So the human form, in conclusion, would be that it's the bridge between the worlds, as above, so below. The awesome geometry of the human body is a star language that assists us to describe the indescribable. So we're also connected to higher levels of mathematics called magic squares, where all the numbers from 1 to 36 all add up to 111. This is called harmonic 111. And we're connected to the flower of life and seed of life. This is about the tree of life, which is a journey from the earth back to the source one. It's all a geometrical pathway that's wide within our body. Great chemists like Marcel Vogel used healing crystals that took the pyramid angle up here and the equilateral triangle of 60 degrees to help assist with healing and pulling out cancers out of the body, because we understand the ratios of the cubic form of the body. So we can see here that when we look at a cube, if you're building a house, you actually would want, so here's a cube here and another cube, so that's a double cube here. So if you're standing in your house here, you would want to have a ceiling. If this is your height here, you would want to have a ceiling that's double your height, because that contains what's called the golden ratio, the keys to the double cube, which you can see here in the sagittal plane, is that you fit into a cube. So we model that for our architecture. So deep breathing also helps us expand our field, and that's why I like to show the three-dimensional flower of life patterns. So just a bit more on the pentagonal geometry of the human form, because this is part of our DNA, that every part of our body, the left and right, has an in and an out. And you can see here in this animation here, what's coming in is also coming out. So that's why the toroidal field explains the polarity of the left and the right. And we actually fit the five-pointed star geometry, as we all can see. And there's some beautiful mathematics that when we stand inside our pentagon, we actually, in the Hebrew gematria, we actually describe the name of Jesus Christ, mathematically in the shape of the pentagon. So that's why it's great to keep eating whole foods that have the pentagonal geometry, like the papaya. Here it's what's called perfect pent. It's a perfection of form. When we eat whole foods fresh from the garden, we imbue all this seeds and all this knowledge of restructured water. So we actually stand between the midpoint. If this is the human here, 1 meter, 10 to the minus 35 is the Planck, but 10 to the 25 is the universe. So we're actually the bridge between the worlds. The human heart here is seen when we cut it transverse slice. We see that the human heart is similar to a red tomato. It's got all the same chambers, the 4 chambers. And that's why our DNA is the critical part of all this, because it's a decagon. It's in the mathematics of what we call 144, which is the speed of light. So this is our antenna to the celestial. So we're connecting to the terrestrial and the celestial by the amazing pentahexa molecules of DNA radio. So this broadcasts our genetic memory to other people that we are attracted to. So the twin spiral carries all the information. You can see how our cells are carrying like soccer ball shapes. There's so much geometry within the cellular parts of the body and our pentagonal geometries of pollens that we eat. So everything I know has a geometrical structure. So it's a recognition that we are actually crystalline, and that when we have more love, we expand our field, whereas fear, what that does, contracts. So there's a big section here on the crystals in the human body, which basically is looking at the hexagonal geometry, which is part of the DNA. So the crystals in the human body are in the blood, are in the bones, are in our teeth, are in our kidneys. So that's what gives us higher access to this knowledge. And the ear symbolism is that it's about silence. So by tuning into the ear, we also recognize that it's in the golden ratio. And there's that inside the ear, there's this snail-shaped organ called the cochlea that connects the outside to the inside. But it's a golden spiral. And there's one part of the brain here in the utricle where there's crystals like pencils that allow us to maintain balance. So these ear rocks called otoconia are calcium carbonate crystals that maintain human balance. Same with the eye. In the retina, we have crystals, liquid crystals in our eye. We have the same crystals in our bones. And even the atomic structure of bones is like square-based pyramids. So it's just pure geometry that's connecting us to the higher knowledge. So this is going back to the cubic consciousness that contains all this hyperdimensional knowledge. So
Conștiința
this is
cubică.
how fish maintain their balance by having crystals of aragonite. And the Egyptians used crushed up crystals, obviously, for their makeup. So this is thousands of years ago we've been connected to this. So keep drinking lots of pure water, just recognizing that this is the key to opening up your physical body to the spiritual cosmic memory. And the embryogenesis, this is the conclusion to the sacred geometry of the human body.
Cunoașterea celestă
We started off
este
with
să
the one,
consumăm să
we
bem mult
became
apă.
the 4 more cells. At 4 cells, we became a tetrahedron. And that's the center, the tetra is the 4 centers of the 4 spheres. And that at 8 cells, we became the cube. That's why we've been talking a lot about the cube. So the 8 cells, what's inside the 8 cells
celule devin
is a star
tetraedru și cele
tetrahedron.
8
So this is
sfere
our first
devin
memory. This
cubul.
memory stores knowledge. Shape stores memory. So this exists at the base of our coccyx. So this is the star tetrahedral frequency that's in our body memory. And that the cube within the cube is what we looked like when we became 16 cells. So at 16 cells, we became kind of like what's called Metatron's cube. That's the cube within the cube, learning how to turn ourselves inside out. And then we became the torus, that's the in and the out. The in is the mouth and the out was the anus. So we became this hyperdimensional, 4th dimensional sphere. And from that, what evolved out of the torus is the first human organ. This is what we're concluding, is that at the center of the torus is the human heart. So as we emerged from the embryo, from the womb and into creation, knowing that our placenta even looked like a human tree, and that the mother's milk that we fed on was also like a tree, everything was connected. The torus had a central point, which is where the human heart, the still point, emerged from. So that's what this story is about, that the human body has a center point, a still point called the embryogenesis of the human heart. And it's a field that we attend to every day. So just wanted you to know that we are a conduit, a bridge between the galactic, the large and the small. We respond to beauty and connection. And that's why we must also tend to our gardens. So there's a lot of
So I'm continuing on the mystery of death. This is part 3. And as I said, if you really want to understand this material, non-material, you should go through sequentially, starting with part 1, part 2, and part 3, so on. Otherwise, it'll be a little confusing. Okay, so we were talking about vibratory frequencies of consciousness. Okay. Space, fire, water, earth are in fact different vibratory frequencies of consciousness that we call the material world. But remember, the material world is a human construct for a perceptual activity that is called the human mind, the fluctuations of consciousness within that narrow band of perceptual activity that is human, the Umwelt of human experience. Even in the regular world, you can see that everything that we look at has many different planes of existence. You can see that whatever object that you look at, which is a perceptual activity actually, but we can give it constructs. So whatever object you look at has a quantum mechanical nature, which is energy and information. It has a gaseous or vaporous nature, because if you heat, it will evaporate. It will evaporate. It has a fiery nature also. The gaseous nature is fire. And it has the liquid nature, and it appears as luminous flames or water or vapor or solid, what we call physical objects. These are different frequency domains of the same consciousness, which is infinite. Every day, ordinary matter simultaneously exhibits different vibratory frequencies. But if you experience them only in one frequency, that is because of your sensory apparatus. Any material item can be experienced in different forms. But after taking all these levels of existence, your senses give you only the experience of form and phenomena. Your senses give you a certain perspective of the nature of reality. Any material can be experienced in these different forms, okay? Solid things can be said to have dense vibration in spiritual terms. Dense vibrations, low frequency vibrations. And then, of course, there are high frequency vibrations. So vaporous things can be said to have a fine vibration or a vibration of a higher frequency. Here, however, the reference to higher or lower does not mean up and down, better or worse, but is just an indication of density. Just as there are different planes of material things, there are also several planes of existence of consciousness or spirit, if you want to call it, awareness, and we can call them spiritual planes. The most obvious vibratory frequency of consciousness is the material plane, but there are also fine, or what are referred to as higher spiritual planes, and in the metaphysical, what do you call it? Metaphysical, spiritual, theosophical literatures, these are called astral planes. So now we're getting there. Astra comes from stars and therefore refers to light. There are almost an infinity of astral planes, which can be divided into higher and lower astral planes, the lower astral planes being higher than the material planes. In the lower astral planes are found experiences of psychic phenomena, clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, psychometry. Other vibratory frequencies of the lower astral planes include what people might call ghosts, apparitions of disembodied souls. These are sometimes sensed by humans in certain states of awareness, but are often sensed by animals, which have a sharp sense of awareness to some of these lower astral planes. In the lower astral planes, we also find thought forms and thought clouds, astral bodies traveling during deep sleep or altered states of consciousness, or you might say with drugs, with psychedelics, etc. All these are vibrations of spirit. Even our physical body has an accompanying astral body. The astral body is a complete mirror of the physical body, with heart, liver, arms, legs, face, but it is vibrating at a different frequency. Most people are not aware of its presence. During life, the physical body provides a covering for the soul at a lower frequency. It gives it the appearance of being localized in the material world. In death, the physical body disintegrates, leaving the astral body to clothe the soul at a higher frequency, giving it a different appearance, localization. So I know this is not long, but it's a little abstract. And of course, many scientists will have problems with this because it's not part of our scientific framework. These are states of awareness that are frequencies of consciousness. Pure consciousness, Shiva, and then all these frequencies of consciousness, Shakti, vibrations. Okay, this is how the unmanifest becomes subtle and then finally material, in appearance only. Okay, but it's the same thing. So, my friends, if you like this, I'll continue. Part 3 is today, the mystery of death. Every spiritual seeker has heard the expression